It's no secret that Nvidia is hard at work preparing its next-generation Blackwell GPUs for the market. It's said as much with regards to the data center Blackwell B100, B200, and GB200, all of which are currently in production. If you want one of those, join the long waiting list because every AI company under the sun would like faster and more efficient GPUs. But there are other Blackwell GPUs also in the works, the consumer-focused gaming chips that will become the RTX 50 series. I don't have any Blackwell hardware in hand, and I doubt anyone outside of Nvidia does, so I'm going to use some filler content of the current RTX 40 series GPUs while I talk about Blackwell. I suspect we'll see some moderate design changes, just like we do every generation, but the current 40 series Founders Edition cards tend to run reasonably cool and quiet, especially with the triple slot models like the 4090 and 4080 Super. I won't be surprised if Nvidia decides to go with an even larger cooler on the 5090 though, as that card is going to be an absolute beast. Also, full disclosure, I'm an AI text-to-speech voice. Trust me, it's better this way. You wouldn't want to hear my regular accent and mumbling. I've been hearing rumors about Blackwell since the Nvidia hack that took place back in early 2022, where we learned plenty of key details about the Ada Lovelace RTX 40 series GPUs before those were even available. But 2 years is a long time in the GPU space, so while there were certainly a few hints about Blackwell and the RTX 50 series, really the only concrete knowledge was the codename. Fast forward to the fall of 2024 and things are starting to become a lot clearer. There have even been credible rumors that the RTX 50 series would ship this year, but as we're now nearing October and given some of the manufacturing delays that have caused issues with the data center B100 and B200, a 2024 launch feels increasingly unlikely. Mind you, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, just that it's definitely not a sure thing at this stage. However, we're getting more credible rumors and even some potential specifications, so let's talk about what we do and don't know about Blackwell and the RTX 50 series. First, we can take it as given that there will be numerous products under the RTX 50 series umbrella, just as we've seen with every previous generation going back to the original GeForce in 1999. There were only 2 GeForce cards, the DDR and SDR variants, but Nvidia was only getting started at the time. In the past decade, there have typically been around 10 different desktop models, give or take, plus laptop and professional parts. The RTX 40 series Ada lineup as an example has precisely 10 desktop models. RTX 4090, 4080 Super, the original 4080, RTX 4070 Ti Super that replaced the 4070 Ti, RTX 4070 Super, the vanilla 4070, RTX 4060 Ti 16GB and 8GB, and finally the bog-standard RTX 4060. Beyond those, Nvidia has at least 5 laptop models, 6 professional models, several data center solutions, and even region-specific stuff like the RTX 4090D for China. The Blackwell RTX 50 series family will almost certainly have at least 5090, 5080, 5070, and 5060 class GPUs. Will there be Ti or Super variants filling in the gaps? Yes, though perhaps the naming scheme will change slightly. Nvidia sometimes likes to keep people on their toes. Could we also see a Titan-class Blackwell chip? Sure, it's possible. Though I'd say it's unlikely, simply due to the overlap between former Titan GPUs and the professional models. Nvidia would prefer to have businesses buying professional GPUs for $6,000 or more, rather than selling similar performance Titan cards at half that price or less. All indications right now are that Nvidia will lead off with the RTX 5090 and RTX 5080. The latest leaks say that the 5090 will use the B200 GPU architecture and will have up to 21,760 CUDA cores. That means 170 streaming multiprocessors, though that number to me doesn't look like an actual maximum value. Remember for instance that the AD102 GPU used in the RTX 4090 supports up to 144 streaming multiprocessors, but only 128 are enabled in the 4090. It would be more logical for the maximum number of SMs to be some other value, and here you can basically pick whatever makes the most sense. 180 SMs using 15 GPCs. That's graphics processing clusters. With 12 SMs each? Yes, that would work. So would 14 GPCs with 14 SMs, or 12 GPCs and 16 SMs? What wouldn't work would be 12 GPCs with 14 SMs each. That would only yield a maximum of 168 SMs, so if the 170 SMs figure is accurate, it's more likely than not that Nvidia has 5 to 10% more SMs available on the chip, or chips, and that it has disabled some of the SMs to improve usable yields. Wait, you ask, what's that about chips? As in the plural of chip. Yes, you heard correctly. Nvidia could use more than one chip to make B200 and the RTX 5090. In fact, it has already announced a dual-chip solution for its data center Blackwell parts. The B200 consists of two full reticle-sized die, linked together by NVHBI. That's the new Nvidia high-bandwidth interface, which provides up to 10 terabytes per second of interconnect bandwidth between the two chiplets. Since that already exists for the data center, it's possible and even likely that Nvidia will also include it on the top client GPU. And that also explains some of the other rumored specifications. I've been hearing about a 512-bit memory interface for the 5090 since 2023. It seemed a bit ludicrous at first, but when you look at everything else, it starts to make sense. We've seen 512-bit memory interfaces in the past, like with AMD's RX 290X. Then memory speeds increased and keeping signal integrity with such a wide interface became more difficult. We haven't seen a 512-bit interface on a client GPU in the intervening years, and I'd be skeptical of the 5090 going that route, except that potential dual-chip design makes a lot of sense on so many levels. And if you're going to double down on a chip that has a 256-bit interface, there's no reason to disable part of it for your Halo Uber gaming solution. Maybe the mid-cycle 5080 Super refresh or whatever gets a 448-bit interface and 28GB of VRAM, but the 4090 will go full Monty is my bet. Economies of scale also come into play. It should be cheaper and more effective for Nvidia to mass-produce smaller GPUs that can be used in either single-chip or dual-chip configurations. That eliminates the largest, most expensive die from the manufacturing plans. This is something AMD has done with great effect on its Ryzen CPUs. It doesn't need to worry about how many 16-core, 12-core, 8-core, and 6-core dies it should order. Instead, it just orders a bunch of 8-core dies, and some of those get 2 of the cores turned off to create the 6-core and 12-core models. Sure, there's some added cost in the unused NVHBI portion of the die on single-chip cards, but let's be real. Nvidia has been raking in money hand over fist for the past couple of years and it hasn't gotten to that level by playing it safe and conservative. The final thing to talk about is the memory, which will be GDDR7. Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron have all revealed GDDR7 roadmaps and plans, and the chips are already in full production with all three companies. Some have said they will offer peak memory speeds of up to 40 gigabits per second, while others top out at 36 gigabits, but either way that's at least 50% faster than the fastest GDDR6 and GDDR6X memory. There's no real need for Nvidia to go whole hog on the RTX 5090 memory though. That 512-bit interface is already 33% wider than on the RTX 4090, and getting up to 32 gigabits per second provides for an additional 52% boost to bandwidth. If I'm right and Nvidia uses 32 gigabit memory speeds, that's still 2 terabytes per second of bandwidth. Double what the RTX 4090 offers. Memory capacity is the other side of the coin though, and the various GDDR7 manufacturers have said they will have both 2 GB and 3 GB chips. So in theory, Nvidia could go as high as 48 GB of GDDR7 memory on a 512-bit interface, or even 96 GB for dual-sided memory configurations. But that's not going to happen on the consumer models, no. Instead, that will be for the professional RTX Blackwell generation or whatever it ends up being called. There's a real market for GPUs with 96 GB and even 288 GB of memory, and companies are willing to pay dearly for such GPUs. Gamers on the other hand don't really have a need for even 24 GB of VRAM, and so the 5090 will have 32 GB and it will be more than enough for the coming generation of games. So there you have it, RTX 5090, with 21,760 CUDA cores, probably in the vicinity of 115 to 120 teraflops of FP32 compute. And also nearly 2 petaflops of FP8 compute for AI, double that for Int8 inference workloads. 32 gigabytes of memory, loads of L2 cache, and a partridge in a pear tree. Oh, and it will also have a 600-watt total graphics power rating, if the latest word on the street proves correct. It's like Nvidia learned nothing from all the melted RTX 4090 connectors. I know, those were mostly user error. User error caused by a poorly designed 12-volt HWPR connector, which is why we now have 12-volt 2x6 connectors. Let's hope those can handle the heat better than their predecessors. And if that's the RTX 5090, the step-down RTX 5080 specs are basically half that. Again, there's some wiggle room here, but the latest rumor says the 5080 will have up to 10,752 CUDA cores and 84 streaming multiprocessors. That's basically the same number as the current AD103 GPU used in the RTX 4080 and 4080 Super though, which then makes us wonder if clock speeds are going to get goosed beyond 3 GHz. That's one option for getting the 5080 to clearly outperform its predecessor. Or Nvidia could increase the amount of compute resources per CUDA core, something we've seen happen in previous generations. The 5080 will still have a 256-bit interface, 16 GB of memory, and a rumored 400-watt total graphics power. That's 2/3 of the 5090's rumored power, with half the number of GPU cores, which again suggests that the 5080 could see a substantial increase in clock speeds. What I don't know, only Nvidia and its closest partners could say for sure, is when we can expect to see the RTX 50 series GPUs go on sale, and how much they're going to cost. Considering everything has become quite a bit more expensive over the past couple of years, I don't expect Nvidia to walk back GPU prices relative to the 40 series. On the contrary, these same GPUs can go into professional and AI-focused designs just as easily as gaming graphics cards, so prices could even creep upwards again. That doesn't make me happy, but that's the reality of where the GPU world exists right now. If you can sell a $200 chip in a consumer card for $1,000, or put the same chip into an AI product and sell it for 4 times that much, yeah, prices aren't going to go down. As far as release dates go, I'm still hearing conflicting so-called leaks, which makes me think the launch date hasn't been finalized yet. Early 2025 feels increasingly likely, but at the same time getting Blackwell out before the holidays would yield some massive sales to well-funded gamers, or more likely, well-funded AI researchers and businesses. But whatever happens, I'm eagerly looking forward to getting some quality time with Blackwell and the RTX 5090 and 5080. Maybe then I'll be able to run games like Black Myth Wukong with full ray tracing at 4K and well over 100 frames per second. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll be back with more content soon.